All right. Today we're gabbing with Abe Lichy, one of the Real House husbands from the Real Housewives of New York City. He's married to Erin Lichy. He co-founded Mezcalum with her last year. Abe, you're actually the first Real House husband that I've had on the show. I've been doing this for a
Really?
year and it just hasn't happened yet. I interviewed for my past job, but you're the first one. So
So we're
congratulations on the
popping each
honor.
other's cherries here.
Exactly. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. It's lychee, just
Oh,
not to be a dick about correcting, but just in case.
I'm sorry about that.
All good. All good.
So first of all, I don't want to start on too somber of a note, but obviously, you guys recently lost Aaron's father, and so I just wanted to express my condolences. And I know that
Thank you.
you're probably going through a lot, and just wanted to check in to make sure everybody is holding up okay, and to just check in on that before we kind of jump into everything.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I was very close with him. Aaron was obviously very close with him, and it was a tough loss. Like the timing too, just
Yeah.
sucks. But we're hanging in, so I appreciate you
Good,
asking.
good. I'm glad to hear that because I know that we saw a lot of him in the first season, and people really kind of fell in love with him. So I think
He was
you
like
guys
that in
should,
real life.
yeah, I think you guys should just feel good about the fact that he did the world got to meet him. I think that that's a pretty special thing.
I like that.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we'll get to more about the show, but I think as being a husband on or a partner on Real Housewives is probably, I'm guessing, a pretty kind of weird experience because like you're on the show, you sign up for the show, and you're in it with your partner who's on the cast in a full-time official way. And we get to know you, but also you don't get to share your full point of view or your full backstory, or kind of you share your side of the story every time. So what's that been like so far for you? Just kind of like you're a public facing figure now, but you don't always kind of get the full platform.
I appreciate that question because I feel like you're right. Like there's very limited facets of not just myself, but I've met a lot of the house husbands, and it's very limited kind of exposure, and it's tough sometimes because I think that the type of exposure that they typically get are with like the more dramatic things, and
Yeah.
so you don't get to show like the real personality. It's like things that are just snippets, and then it's like people jump to conclusions about you. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird. I never envisioned myself being on a reality show.
Hmm.
Um, but when they approached us about signing up for this, Aaron was into it and said, fuck it, it's a different experience, and we like adventure. So but it's been a journey. I mean, there's so much to unpack, and that's probably like a whole other podcast episode in of itself. But it's been cool in many ways. Like I enjoy the filming. Actually, I love the production team.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The audio, the video guys, the on-site production managers, and you develop these relationships because you're with them a lot. And
Yeah.
so it's been fun seeing it, how they edit this, like what they choose to show is always like a trip, and you're like, oh, really? Like, fuck.
That dinner was 2 hours, and this is what we're showing from it. Exactly. I'm sure that's,
Yeah, or the infamous "fuck other women" comment from last year, which there was so much more context to that,
of
but
course.
whatever. You develop a thick skin, and like I forget that I'm on a show until we're filming and it's airing. Like we live day to day normal lives, so it's always funny.
Yeah, and you also realize probably that, like, I mean, even the comment you just brought up, it's like people, there's so much that's airing on Bravo at all times that like some of these little moments, like they matter to people for a week, and then the new episode comes out and there's another thing to really kind of get worked up about, right? So it's like it's a very fickle
Yes,
fan, it's a very fickle viewership sometimes. So
but you know what? You know what? Not fickle or short lasting is the search results on Google. Like if you Google my
that's true.
name, it's like all these crazy salacious articles, and it's like the fans might not care as much, but Google SEO, Google remembers. So that's it's ironically been like the only real frustration that I've had with the way some of these things are couched, because like the fan stuff, like I get it, like move
Yeah.
on to the next issue, whatever. But so it is what it is. Though I
It's
signed
it's
up
it's
for
the
it,
media
and
it's
it's
like the
part.
media coverage that you get frustrated with, just like the
Yeah,
headlines of it
like
all.
the salacious headlines, and then you read the article, and it's like not actually bad. It's like
Yeah.
fair portrayal most of the time, but it's of course just the headline, and you're
Yeah.
like,
I get
what
that.
the fuck?
Yeah.
But I get it. They're doing their job, so
Yeah.
can't fault them.
So I'd love to just kind of take a little bit of a step back, Abe, and just like hear a little bit more about your backstory, because I don't think that we know some things about you, but I'd love if like, are there things that you wish more people knew about, or things that kind of got you to this place that you are in life that you want to share? Because I'd
Yeah.
love to hear about it.
I mean, it's a broad question, so I'll try to
Yeah.
keep it focused. I don't know if Erin's mentioned on the show, but we're from New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm kidding.
A
I
city
know that
girl,
she's
not
getting a lot of shit.
you're not Staten
Um,
Island people, exactly.
um, we both grew up on the Upper West. We were introduced later in life, and we when I met Erin, we were like very career focused. I had just started a job at a big law firm, like a very prestigious law firm, and I was there for 6 years even. But through that process, like I didn't really like the lifestyle. I mean, the firm was nice, the people were nice, and pretty high stakes stuff, but just wasn't for me. And
Mhm.
then for the last 2 years there, Aaron and I started this handbag line, which I know kind of makes a small appearance on the show.
Yeah.
But I did that kind of as a side hustle for 2 years, and then I just wanted to quit my job. And like, I'll just come, we'll work together, and we'll like really try to build this. So I did it for like 3 years full time with her. We put all of our life savings into it. It was self funded,
How it
and
works.
it didn't work out in the end. Which I like to say it's a very expensive MBA degree because I learned. I mean, so much of what I learned is enabled, and that she learned is enable us to actually start a business now, Mezcalum,
Right.
the proper way, and like it's doing really well. And a lot of that I attribute to the mistakes that we made back in the past. But we went through that journey and then had to start over again. We had no money, no liquidity for a while, and so we had to both start over. And
Hmm.
I think a lot of people look at us. The question was about me, but I really view this in the
Yeah. I mean,
context
yeah,
of like our
totally.
relationship. I think a lot of people have this misconception that we're just these entitled, spoiled kids, which that's not completely untrue. Like we both grew up comfortably in New
Right.
York City, not with trust funds, but comfortable. But there was that 5 year stretch where we just lost everything we had and had to start over. And that process of rebuilding was really difficult and long. I started my own law practice after we dissolved the handbag business.
Hmm.
I went back to real estate, and it took years to kind
I'm
of
sure.
dig ourselves out of that, which we'll talk more about later with the whole
Yeah,
Bitcoin debt
of
thing.
course.
But I don't know. I think there's just misconception. People think we're just like this
No,
self-entitled assholes, but like we fucking hustle to
I
get to where we are.
yeah, and I think that I think it's very clear that you're hard workers, but I also think there is a misconception about what it's like to grow up in Manhattan and grow up in New York City, and sort of there's assumptions that are made about just people's realities, I think, when that is
Totally.
part your origin. Um, when you guys were doing the handbag business, did you have had you started your family yet, or was it just you two?
No, that's so part of the whole stressor. And keep in mind, like at the very end, we brought in a third partner, but for like the vast majority of it, it was just the two of us.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
imagine like, a husband and wife working just the two of them together.
My parents have a
Uh,
company together, so I know what
okay,
that
so you
is a
can
little bit
relate.
like. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's tough.
Coupled with when we started it, like I think it was a year after we started, we had our first kid, our oldest son,
Got
Levi.
it.
And then towards the end, not only were we going broke, working together, as you can imagine, the tension in our relationship at that point of our life. My father was just diagnosed with brain cancer at that time,
Uh,
was given, a few months to live. He ended up living 3 years. But, at the end of the handbag business, I think it was the end of 2017 or beginning of 2018 when we dissolved it. My father passed away. We just had our second child, had no money.
hmm.
Um, and it was really really hard. It was really really hard. But I would say that brought us closer together.
And it's
That
character building. Yeah, it really is that kind
Oh,
of
totally. I mean, it
experience.
was a lesson in humility I'll speak for myself, that I certainly could have used at that
Right.
time, because up to that point, life was relatively easy. I'm not going to bullshit around that, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it brought us closer together as a couple too. We
Mm-hmm.
weathered a lot. Like my father passed away. Her father obviously just passed away. Her mother, of course, as shown on the show, had dealing with breast cancer, and so sick parents, having now three
Yeah.
kids, having a business that didn't work out, losing everything we had, multiple moves. I mean, like we've just been through a lot, which is why it's funny. Like I don't typically read comments, but after this last episode, because it affects my reputation. So I'm like, what are people extrapolating from this? It's like, oh, divorce, divorce. So the Bauer rule curse, and it's like the mentality of people of to think like, yeah,
Such a
let's just
chunk.
throw away 13 years of marriage because we had a hiccup and like
Yeah.
had an issue, but that we resolved, and it's just wild to me. Like I don't know if it's a generational thing, but it's mind boggling.
It's the armchair experts. That's kind of what I think
Yes,
a lot of
I
viewers
like
think
that
that,
phrase.
yeah, I think that's sort of what there's a lot of jumps that are made, and I think there are a lot of things that go into that. But like, so you when you practice law, is it sort of like entertainment industry adjacent? Because it's sort of you help
Yeah,
like content creators and things like that. Is that correct?
yeah, yeah. So I work with a lot of brands,
Got it.
and as well as content creators, celebrities, um, with brand deals,
Got
license
it.
agreements, business advice, like anything kind of in between. I like to
So
think
so
more.
does that like sort of prepare you for what you've gone through in the past 2 years in
Yeah,
terms of being in the entertainment industry now, like kind of full fledged?
I mean 100%. I'm usually on the other side
Yeah.
calming my clients down when this kind of stuff happens. So
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, take my own advice,
Yeah.
which I do. Like I've got a pretty level head.
What
I
is
don't
that
worry about
advice you
this stuff.
give?
Like kind of what you said earlier, which is like the news cycle will shift
Yeah.
like pretty quickly. So, while you might be emotional about the current headline or whatever the topic du jour is, like they're going to move on from that. So, don't react emotionally and make it a bigger thing than it needs to be, because it'll pass. And it does, it's like, you don't over engage. Like, don't get on Twitter and start
Hmm.
responding to comments. Like, it just, hey, it's not a good look, but it's also like, fuck these people. Like,
Right.
who are they that they get to
You'll never
judge
meet
you?
them. Yeah, and you'll never meet them in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it's also, I mean, did you go to BravoCon last year?
I did go to
Yeah. Well,
BravoCon.
because that to me is always, I've been to all three, and it's like it's always a reminder that like it's actually a much more positive fan base and a much more supportive
100%.
community. And you just have to be reminded of that in person sometimes because of just how negative social
I
media
mean,
skews.
I had the same exact thought because, I was aware that there were a lot of negative things being said about me from, on social media, which like I don't give a shit.
Right.
It doesn't affect me day to day, whatever. But I was just curious about BravoCon because, I'm not like, I don't watch reality TV. I mean, I had seen shows in the past
Of
with Erin,
course.
but like I
Not
stick to like my
religiously.
fantasy
Yeah.
adventure shows, like,
Okay.
Lord of the Rings and my weird Turkish shows. I'll watch our season, but for me, I was so new to this world completely, other than being on the law side of it, that I was like, I just got to see what this is all like. They have a thing called BravoCon. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
And to your point, like everybody was super cool and positive, and like it was surprising to me. I honestly didn't had no expectation of that, and I was pleasantly surprised, and I had a really great time. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, it's really fun. And I actually think that the reaction to Erin and her castmates was like it kind of blew me away a little bit because people have only known them for a season at that point, and like
Yeah,
they're up they're
totally.
up- they're programmed against people who we've known for over a decade. And I thought that the positive response to them, there was a line out the door for their panel event. Like
I
I thought
remember
that
I
that
was
was
blown away with
that was
it
a
was
pleasant
packed in there.
surprise, I would say. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, really, really cool.
Yeah. So when Housewives came knocking, you said that you were kind of just like, fuck it, let's do it. But like, what kind of conversations did you and Aaron have like what were the biggest considerations, or like was there a hang up for you, or was it mostly sort of like, okay, it's the press, it's the coverage of it?
There really wasn't a hang up. I mean, I'm a very yeah, let's just try it.
Mhm.
And also, like, I've been in the media world again on the legal side, so I figured, like, look, we can navigate the bullshit elements that come with it. There are clear benefits to the exposure.
Of
Obviously, it
course.
gives you a certain platform. We're able to start a mezcal brand, Mezcalum, because we have this exposure now on this platform. And so that, plus, honestly, there are certain things that the two of us feel very strongly about sharing and in a meaningful way, because the world's fucked up now, and I think there's so many people that are struggling with different things, and we could touch on this later with our specific conversation, but like, I don't know, it just felt like we're, a normal couple, and that it'd be healthy for people to see just a normal, healthy relationship with its ups and downs. And I speak just from the relationship angle. Obviously, Erin has her personal story, which is front and center.
Right.
But I don't know, we just felt like it was important for people to see that they can have a loving family. You can be aspirational, and you could have made mistakes in the past with business or whatever, and hopefully it inspires people, or at least causes people to have conversations with each other, with their significant other, their business partners, whatever. And so I don't know, just thought it was an opportunity for that. But no hangups really. Just the main hangup was, not even a hangup, but just, let's make sure that we're protecting the kids
Yeah.
from becoming one of those, reality kids. Like, we don't want that for our kids. I know they're on the show a little bit, but
They don't need to be like full-fledged
we
personalities.
do
You're right.
not, yeah, and like, we do not encourage them to film, like for the dinner scene that we were at. Obviously, it was a family dinner, but they don't want to film. We never pressure them. Like, we
Yeah.
feel very strongly about keeping them away from this world. They're,
Yeah. I think
they're young.
Yeah, I think that they're there, but they're not the focus of the show by any means for you two. And I feel like, so in the first season, I'm thinking about this. It's like you and Aaron, and I guess Jessel and Pavitt were kind of the only other couple that really centered like your relationship and really kind of put it out there, I think, in the biggest way. I think you two were the two couples that sort of did that the most in that first season. What did you take away from that first go round? Because obviously, there's also the experience of filming, waiting, it airing. I feel like the airing part is probably the most difficult because it comes with resurfacing things. It comes with the fan commentary. It comes with all of that. What did you learn from that kind of first full roller coaster of a season?
I think the biggest thing I learned was, don't, like, I'll kind of give you some back context. Like, most of last season, what I thought would be portrayed as like me as the voice of reason. Because I'm like, a lot of it talking to Erin, like, well, you can see it from her perspective, and like, just being like a reasonable person. And then, of course, they only show, me talking about swinging, me
Right.
talking about fucking other women, which again was completely missing the backstory of the context, which was a much deeper conversation about, like, if my wife wouldn't have sex with me because she didn't want to, and there was the love was lost. It was like a kitschy response to that, not
Right.
like, oh, my wife was sick, like, fuck other women, like. But they do that, and it's like the little sound bite. So what I've really learned is, be careful to a degree of like how you say things.
Yeah.
Not self-producing, but just don't assume that they're going to show the well-rounded kind of character
Yeah.
as the house husband on the show. I think I expected more, I guess, and I'm not faulting them. Like, they're doing a job, and I get it, but I'm so naive to this because I've never done this before. So
Yeah.
that to me was the biggest takeaway.
Yeah. And it's hard because like I could sense that like your sense of humor is something that I would really like. But sometimes it's like the
It
kind of
lands
like
weird without
it
context.
can on TV if they don't give you the full context, right? So I understand that like you want to be yourself, but what if this one comment is just it's a 1 minute scene, and I understand that
Yeah.
can never probably get that much easier. But did you? So is that sort of what like, you just kind of had top of mind, kind of going into filming for season two, like
You know what the
that could
funny thing
happen?
is? I feel like I doubled down on it because the other thing that I kind of came to the conclusion or what have you was like, and this ties into the whole dinner scene. I'm like, you know what? We people who watch the show, it's a reality show.
Yeah,
We signed up to do this. I signed up to do it as far as my role in it. The viewers deserve like reality, you know? And so,
I agree.
for me, I know that I'm a good person. I know that, I treat people with respect and that I have a, dirty sense of humor sometimes, or like I'll say things just provocatively. That's just how I am. And so I'm like, if I can't be myself, then like I don't want to be this forced fake version of myself because it's just so inauthentic. And then it's like then I become one of those fake fucking people, and I'm no interest in doing that. I'd rather just
Right,
not be on the show.
right.
So for me, and Erin obviously got annoyed with me with the mushroom comment, which was obviously because of the Bitcoin thing, which I know we'll talk about in a sec. But like I'm still gonna say that kind of stuff, and I'm pretty sure it gets. Okay, I mean, I can't tell you what happens the rest of the season, but I think everybody's gonna be pretty shocked by, in a funny way, hopefully, with some of the stuff that I'm involved in.
Okay.
And it's like whatever, like I am who I am, and like I'm not
Yeah.
ashamed of who I am, and it's whatever, take
Yeah.
it or leave it.
That's
Take
how
it or leave
that's
it.
how that's how it should be. I think that is the best approach to being on a reality show because I think at this point, again, the shows have been on for so long that like viewers know what is like when somebody's being, inauthentic
Totally.
or not being forthcoming enough. And so I think that is the best and most healthy approach to being on the show. So, we've kind of talked around some of these kind of two conversations that you and Erin have had that we've seen so far on this season. The first one was the mushroom thing. And so you think that was more about the Bitcoin frustration and she was taking it out on
Yeah,
okay. So that's how
yeah,
that's
I
how you sort
know
of
it
make sense of it.
was.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, so are we segueing into this? Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'll
let's go into
segue with
it.
the mushroom because it did.
Yeah.
So the mushroom comment after that scene, I knew why she was pissed, and we had a conversation, and I said, "Look, like so," and I guess let me back up. The whole context of the dinner scene was from, she found out that I had sold the Bitcoin earlier in the year. This scene was filmed, I want to say in March, maybe.
Okay.
So like towards the end of last year, so like 3 or 4 months prior to filming. And I'll get into the details of like what actually transpired because a lot of misunderstanding and speculation. It's like
I'm
not that
sure.
scandalous at all, but
Okay.
it's real, and I'll get to that in a sec. But I knew there, so it was still fresh. Like we had, like we got into it like earlier in the year, which we weren't filming, and it probably wouldn't show that because it's still so fresh. Although maybe I don't know, but when we had that dinner scene and I could tell she was like, a little snappy with me, I said to her, I'm like, look, like I get why you're snappy with that. I'm okay with if you want to go into the stuff about our relationship, like not only am I okay with it, but like I'd like to because it's real. And I think that, whether it's like partially my penance, so to speak, but also more importantly, like an opportunity just for us to be real. Like
Yeah.
this is reality, and let's fucking be real because like what else? Like why are we doing this? Honestly, why are we doing this? And we're not perfect, and that's okay. And I think people will actually. I mean, I think it remains to be seen, but I think people will get that and be like, you know what? Like I've been through something like that myself, and we've individually had so many random people, friends, and just like fans, if you want to call them, reach out like, hey, like I watched that scene, and like I was watching it with my boyfriend or my girlfriend or my wife, spouse, whatever, and like we ended up having our own conversation, and like I've been going through something like that in my marriage, whether it's obviously not exactly the same, but something similar where it's like there's just communication breakdown.
Yeah.
And so that's my hope. Like that's really what I hope. If we could show people that it's okay to not be perfect. And we have to like I'm tired of pretending that people are pretending to be perfect all the time. Like that's
Oh my
not
God.
life. And
Yeah.
it's a problem in my opinion because it causes these unrealistic expectations of what relationship should be, and it's going to cause unhappiness, and it's a whole spiral. But anyway, so we had a conversation about opening up about this. And so, that whole dinner scene was, nobody forced me to have that. I suggested we do that because I
Hmm.
thought it was important. And so the whole context behind this,
Yeah,
because I think this is really important for just relationships in general,
of course.
is yes, we had some Bitcoin from, that was just sitting there for a while. Back into the handbag business, because I know people are trying to connect dots. We lost all our cash. Like it is what it is.
Hmm.
We put all our money into it. It was self-funded. And, restarting from scratch, I was interviewing at law firms after, at one point I told Erin I was going to do a dropship t-shirt business. And just the look at her face said, oh, I'm like, all right, all right. But, I'm interviewing at law firms and my heart wasn't in it. And
Hmm.
then, I'm like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur and I'm a lawyer. So I started my own practice. And, whatever. It took a few years to get to where it needed to be.
Of
Throughout that
course.
period, we had debt from the handbag business. And, one thing would lead to another where we would get, another bill from back then. And at a certain point, I, would get these bills. I wouldn't tell Erin. Part of it is, I didn't want to add stress. We had a new baby, then she got pregnant again around this time period, COVID. And so part of it was not wanting to add stress. Part of it was absolutely my pride as a man,
Right.
like wanting to provide it. And so I'm like, I'll just take care of it. And I was for the most part. I figure it out. It was a lot of stress and a burden. I'm not trying to play victim here, but it was that mentality. And then it was also the mentality of like, Erin has a strong personality. Like, I just don't want to deal with the reaction,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
honestly. And so when with the Bitcoin thing, it was like one bigger lingering thing that we had to take care of. I'm like, I just want to be done with this. So I sold the Bitcoin. I love Bitcoin. It wasn't like a life-changing amount of money in there. I mean, now it's a lot higher and so whatever. But
So
it wasn't going to make or break our family finances. And I didn't want to have to go to Erin with the previous stuff because I wanted to just take care of it myself and not be like, hey, I need to take from our joint accounts or from our hard assets. So obviously she finds out about the Bitcoin, and then I told her about the other stuff. And the issue, and this is completely valid, obviously, which is I should have communicated this to her well
right.
before, and that's the biggest thing. Like I'm not involved in some crazy scandal. Like we're not
It's
in
not
debt
deeper than
now.
that.
Like
Right.
yeah,
But
like
that
we
was the
dealt
fatal
with it.
flaw, is not communicating
That
it.
was not communicating, and for that I still feel awful about it. At a certain point I tried justifying it with all I was going to say, but it's not a justification because we had the conversation and it was uncomfortable. I mean, it was very uncomfortable.
Of course. That's
And,
a
it sucked. It sucked. But I can't tell you how liberating it was like after that because, I feel like a lot of couples have this kind of avoidance with talking about difficult things, whether it's about finances or whatever, like whatever tough situation, and flowing both ways. It's not only one spouse. Usually, it's a very gray kind of dynamic situation most of the time. But the valuable lesson I learned is, if you're going to be married and you're in it for the long run, you have to feel comfortable having those unpleasant conversations even though they are uncomfortable, because that's where the trust is built. And like, yeah, I lost trust with her. She lost trust with me, I should say, on that for a little bit, which we're rebuilding. And, it just is what it is. Like I
yeah.
feel bad about it. I should have absolutely told her from the beginning. But I think the biggest lesson is if I can convey this to people, which is when you're with somebody for a long time, it's easy for life to get in the way. If you have kids, career, family shit, whatever it is in your life, it's easy to avoid those conversations because you've got enough stress. Like a lot of people are struggling. And there's also this inclination to protect part of it, to protect your spouse from like unpleasantries. But in the end, you keep letting that fester. If you don't have that communication, eventually that's when things get really bad and, divorce, whatever. And, we were fortunate. We got out of it. The lingering things that were remaining when she found out about the actual Bitcoin, we just took care of together. And it was like,
Hmm.
felt good to just do it together,
Yeah.
openly, and
100%. Yeah.
then we're good, so
Yeah.
that's what it
Yeah.
was.
That's
Not
so
trying to minimize it,
no,
but
it's okay. So I have two clarifying questions because I think it makes a lot more sense now. But one is, so she just wasn't aware of the extent of the sort of debt that you guys had taken on from the handbag business, basically.
it,
And
it was in part, like it
okay.
was that creates, it's like a bunch of little small things
Yeah.
that snowballed from that
Yeah. Yeah.
over
Yeah.
the years.
Okay.
Because then you've got private school bills,
Of
you've got
course.
you've got life bills, you have more kids, more bills, and so it's always like, okay, which one do I prioritize
Yeah.
first?
That makes
And
sense.
like, and
That's that's real adult shit. Yeah.
yeah, it is what
Yeah.
it is. Like, we
Yeah.
do well. The problem is I was trying to do everything by myself,
Right.
and not telling her, obviously.
Right.
But
And then the
yeah,
other question for you, Abe, is like, obviously you made this decision to sell off the Bitcoin to help cover this kind of last remaining big piece of debt from that time, and now it's worth a little bit more. Do you regret selling it because it's worth more, or like are you kind of okay with that decision because it covered that big debt? Do you know what I
yeah, I
mean?
regret selling it. I
Okay,
regret, if I told her back then, like we could have paid for it from like one of our joint accounts.
got it.
Um,
And
so yeah, I
she would
regret
have been like,
selling it.
yeah, okay, let's do that. Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely regret selling it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
I can't look at the ticker now without being like, fuck.
Don't look at the ticker. It's
I know,
just
I do occasionally, but no, I mean, look,
yeah.
I'm at peace with it. Like, what am I going to
Yeah.
do? It happened,
Right.
and we've been
You've moved
successful
through
in
it.
many other ways since,
Yeah.
so it's fine. Like
Okay.
we're good, but yeah, that is a little sore spot for me.
Yeah. And then the other you've alluded to this obviously is like the other element of this is that now it's played out on a show where people like to talk about it and provide commentary. And we just spent 5 or 10 minutes talking about this and getting all the details. But on a show, we see a 3 to 5 minute scene and it's kind of a flattened issue. You know what I mean? We don't get all the context and all the depth of it. And because of that, people jump to conclusions. They're like, oh my God, their marriage is in trouble. Oh my God, XYZ. It creates the headlines. How do you deal with that portion of it and like not not respond to all the DMs or comments that you've probably gotten or something? Like how do you block that out?
Yeah, I mean, great question. Well, and first of all, just to comment on it, because it's flattened out, and I mean, I'm aware of the history that there have been some like bad actor house
Yeah,
husbands in the past.
right.
What I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I don't like to name names because
not
that would be a dick.
necessary.
But like, there's someone like that are clear bad actors, and so I get this, like the
The
inclination for people to
mistrust. Yeah,
speculate and to be like, oh, this crazy thing's going to come out about Abe Lichy, and he's doing this and doing that, and they're going to get divorced. Like, so yeah, when I see this, I'm like, holy shit, like
right.
what? But I'm never going to respond to comments because I mean, just what purpose does that serve me? Like none. It's just going to like waste my
Mhm.
time engaging with people who are like whose opinions I don't really care about to begin with. What do I do? Like, get my message out. Like, I'm talking to you.
Right.
I'm like, I want to talk about this because I want to get the message out about
The
this
bigger
being
lesson.
something that happens
Yeah.
in people's lives, and that to say like it's okay to talk about this. Like,
Hmm.
people need to stop being afraid of looking imperfect. Social media and Instagram, it's like all these curated photos. Like, it's not real life. And I'm just concerned that as a society, we're slipping down the slippery slope where these unrealistic expectations of people's lives. I mean, there's a story that I'm sure you're aware of with, and I don't want to say the name because whatever, but the guy who was married, they're in the New York scene, who killed himself
Right.
in the
Right. Yeah,
summer.
that's everywhere.
And
Yeah.
like, that's a very extreme version of
But
that type of thing. But it's because I don't
there's
know
shame
them
around it.
intimately at all, but there's this expectations, and just in society at large, that it's like if you're not meeting those as your lifestyle. And Erin doesn't pressure me for that kind of stuff. I know that like there's a snippet of that on the show. I think that there's a lot more context to that. Like,
Uh-huh.
Erin's super down to earth, honestly. Like, she's not like that. But a lot of people, I think, exist in this world where they think they need to be like that. And so I just think it's dangerous. And I think,
Yeah,
this can get out and just be like, it's cool that if you're not, life's not perfect.
yeah,
Like nobody's life is perfect.
yeah. I think it's sort of the convergence of like wanting to pretend everything's perfect and like the Instagram lifestyle that everybody wants to live, and also this sort of like shame of talking about money and finances and thinking that sort of like taboo to talk about that stuff. So I think in you being willing to talk about the convergence of those two things is actually so refreshing, especially on a show that like part of the reason why a lot of people watch is the aspirational aspect of it. And I think that you and Erin's life is very aspirational in many ways, but kind of puncturing that a little bit by opening up about this issue that you've had, that's refreshing. I think a lot of people in your position would not have
Thank you.
done that. It's true. Like a lot of people would
I know
pretend
they
that
would have.
everything's okay, and they would keep the debt would keep piling up. So
You know what it is like with when I was going through those years of like fixing it, I never want to feel that again.
yeah,
And like I never want anybody else to feel that. And a lot of men specifically who I talk to experience that in certain ways. And it's a heavy burden. Like the hiding of it, with the justification in the time of I'm just when I'm gonna fix it because that's what I'm a man, that's what I'm supposed to do. But part of kind of opening up about this is because like I'm just tired of wearing a fucking mask. I'm
mhm.
tired of it. Like take me or leave me. Like I'm good with me. Take me or leave me. Like I'm tired of wearing a mask. It's just
It's
it's
great. Take it
exhausting.
off.
It's
Yeah,
exhausting.
yeah. So we're obviously very early in this season, Abe, and it's kind of great that we have so much to talk about already, 2 episodes in. But like, it seems like you and Erin have worked through a lot of this, and you're rebuilding a lot of whatever trust was lost, and you're in a better place than fans might believe just from seeing the show. Are we going to see more? Are we going to see part of that rebuilding? Are we going to see more of you guys working through some of these things?
I don't remember. No, I mean I think
I love that answer.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say.
I
I'm
think you're usually allowed to
I
tease, but
mean
it's okay.
I like what you saw was a punctuation mark of that
Okay.
issue.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of realness from
Yeah.
us, and
Good.
I don't. I filmed in some group settings with the girls, so I could, like there
Yeah.
are some
We'll see on
funny
that
things,
front.
some dramatic things, but as far as like me and Erin, we really and last season too, but I feel like a lot of it wasn't shown about like the overall life, like her life, her different family dynamics. But yeah, we made a concerted effort to just be ourselves and be real, and I hope that comes out
I
for
think it
good or
does.
bad.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so that remains to be seen. I haven't seen the rest of the season, but
Right.
there are definitely some things that I think the audience will be shocked with
Okay.
me specifically, which is it's gonna be very. You'll know when you see it. But and I'm excited to Mel Raquel's fiance.
Oh yeah. Okay. I
We
saw that
became
one.
very
We've seen the one
close.
scene. We've seen the one scene of
You
them.
guys will get to know her
Okay.
more. I think
Okay.
she's awesome. So I'm
Well,
excited for that to unfold.
good because I feel like, I mean, so I do want to, spend the last our remaining time talking about sort of how you and Erin together have really capitalized on this platform already by, launching Mezcalum, and you said it's really successful. I have a bottle here. I got sent
Oh,
this. I got sent this, I think earlier this year. I actually tried it for the first time at BravoCon. You guys had a booth there, and I took a shot
did
of
we
it.
meet at BravoCon at the
No,
booth?
we didn't. You weren't at the booth when I stopped by.
Oh, okay.
But it's clearly very successful. I see it places. I hear about it. Talk to me about like, was this, I mean, and launching it right off the bat of the first season, it must have been in the works and sort of part of the plan, right? Or no?
Sort of,
Okay.
sort of. So we had been talking about making a mezcal brand for years. I mean, we go to Tulum a lot,
Hmm.
and like 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, even, we're on the beach, partying. Um, and everybody's there drinking mezcal. And I'm like, I'd had it before, but not in this kind of focus. And we were like, this is delicious. Like, how is this not a thing in the States? And so every few years, we would just offhandedly be like, one day we got to start a mezcal business. So fast forward, we're filming for the first season,
Right.
14, but
14.
our
Yeah.
first season. Um, and I'm like, look, we've got this platform. I'm not under contract with them. So I'm like, we might as well get some benefit. You know, I might as well get some
Totally.
community benefit too. And we're like, what can we do? And we're both at like, let's do the Mezcal brand. And, you know, we're not just going to start a business without doing due diligence, you know, learn that lesson
Hmm.
entering the fashion industry with no fashion industry
Right.
experience.
Right.
Um, and, you know, we looked and I did my due diligence. I work with a lot of spirits brands with part of my job as a lawyer.
Hmm.
Um, Top three at the time, fastest growing spirit category, a lot of room for market share. And one of the things that, as we were developing the branding, and I give Erin a lot of credit with this, is you see a lot of the mezcal products out there. It's like the skull and bones and very
Yeah.
Oaxacan, really smoky,
That's not
which
this. Yeah.
not
That's
that, which I
no.
love personally. Like I
Me
enjoy that
too.
stuff myself, but it's very masculine focused. And
Yeah.
so you're looking at mezcal as a spirit, and there's no sugar, there's no additives. You by law, like any mezcal, not just ours, it's you know no carbs, no gluten, checks all the boxes. And so we were like, let's make this really light on the smoke. So I had our distiller send us like we went through like 80 different iterations of
Wow.
blends and levels of smoke, whatever landed on this, which I think is perfect. Like we it was
It's
very
really
we put a
good.
lot of taste and thought into this specific blend, but we wanted it to be approachable to a wider demographic than just the male demographic. And so, you know, and obviously the tie-in with being on a show like Housewives. And so that's when we've been really successful. And like it also speaks to, I think, our lifestyle, Erin's lifestyle, because of, you know, we're active, we take care of ourselves, we
Yeah.
exercise, we work hard, we play hard,
Yeah.
and you know, we think that Mezcalum really embodies the spirit of that kind of free spirit, pun intended, I guess. But you know, for like, you know, the working parent who needs to get
Totally.
up in the morning, but they're going to go out and
But
be
they
social.
want a social life. Yeah.
Yeah, like they want to wake up at 6 in the morning to work out before you have to deal with your kids, get them ready for school. And you know, people I think are becoming more health conscious about what they're putting into their body, and so we've been leaning in on that because we believe it, and we see the opportunity there. But like that's our lifestyle, so it's been great. I mean, knock on
Awesome.
wood, obviously, but it's been a lot of hard work. We learned our lessons from the handbag business and did things the right way. We
Hmm.
raised capital. We hired a great set of you know, great CFO. I was like, we're bringing CFO. I'm not dealing with this shit. Like, I'm really good at certain things. We're bringing a CFO on, who is
Listen,
amazing. And we got great head of sales. And so we're building a team. We
great.
have a team that we're building, expanding, and so, you know, having other people, not just the two of us, but other people who
That's
actually
important.
do the jobs instead of us having to do everything, it's like, okay, we're really good at certain things and we're able to capitalize on that. And it's been great. And the
Yeah.
reception's been great too.
Good.
And I'll say this, like, I'm grateful for the opportunity through the Bravo platform. I mean,
Oh, a thousand
you know,
percent.
it gives us an unfair advantage, as I like to call it. So it's
Hmm.
something that I'm really appreciative of.
Good. Yeah. How do you drink your mezcalum? Is it because I've literally been at bars and
So
people will
take the
order
bottle
mezcal
top off,
water. Take the
take the
bottle
bottle
top
top
off.
off. All right, put it to your lips, and
Okay.
then take a swig.
Oh my God.
That's how I like to drink it.
Tastes good. It's
No,
1:45 p.m. on a Tuesday.
no. I do like it. I drink
I
it
love
neat.
it. Yeah, it tastes really
Like at
good.
all our events, like it's my new tradition. I just go, like get a bunch of the bottles and just pour it in people's mouths, and
I love
you
that.
know,
And you're D
I'm that guy
and
now.
you DJ sometimes too, right?
I do. Although I'd like to clear up one point because
Okay.
everybody's like, I've heard people say like, oh, now that he's on a reality show, he's DJing. Like I've
You've
been
been
DJing
doing
for
it.
25 years.
There we go.
Um, and I love it. It's just like an outlet. I play in a band too with my brothers, but
Oh,
it's harder to
fun.
get five of us together to into a studio. But
Uh-huh.
DJ, just you know, put your USB stick in. But yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. You gotta have
Yeah, that's
hobbies,
awesome.
otherwise you go crazy.
And pouring this in people's mouths while from the DJ booth is a pretty good party
Yeah.
trick, I would say. So
Oh yeah, it's awesome. But with orange, if you're asking like at home, I'll have it with a glass, neat
uh-huh.
slice of orange, not even squeezed.
Okay.
That's how I like it. No ice. I feel like
Okay.
the ice dilutes it, but it's great
Love
in
it.
cocktails.
Love
Yeah.
it. Well, Abe, I feel like we've covered most of most of our all the ground. Is there anything else that you wanted to clear up or whatever? Because I feel like I feel way more
That's
clarified on
really it.
what we've seen.
That's really it. I don't, because like all the other stuff from last season, I didn't even care about
Yeah,
the misconceptions. I'm like, whatever. But this just happened to strike like
and
a
we're kicking off
serious
on this
note with
note.
the
Yeah,
speculation. So I just
totally.
wanted to get that cleared up, but also get the message out about the bigger picture of hoping people can connect with it and just if that helps them in their own lives. So
Yeah, 100%. Well, Abe, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time today. It's just, this is great to chat with you. The
yeah, thanks for having me.
first house husband on Gabbing with Gibbs. So the honor's
First,
all
like
yours.
my first real podcast
I
thing.
love it.
So
I love it.
yeah,
All right. Well,
thank you.
thanks again, and hopefully we'll talk again soon. I want to gab.